Good day everyone. For today, we will have a lecture video about IAS 41. Okay, IAS 41 is mostly associated with biological assets. Aside from biological asset, it is also associated or within the scope includes the agricultural produced and as well as government grant related to biological asset. Okay, so first and foremost, let's have to define these terms. Okay, first we have this what we call biological asset. Okay, when we say biological asset in simpler definition, it is just the living animal and the living plants. Okay, this is what we refer biological asset. Next is the agricultural produced. Okay, this is what you've harvested from the biological asset. Next is agricultural activity. When we say agricultural activity, it is by definition under IAS 41 the management by an entity of the biological transformation of biological assets for sale into agricultural produce or into additional biological assets. Or simply, we could dissect the definition into three. It is as to capability to change, meaning there is transformation of the biological asset. Next is management of change, meaning the entity had to manage or facilitate the transformation of the asset. And measurement of change. This one is management of change. The third one is measurement of change. When we say measurement of change, of course, there is a change as to the quality, the biological asset, and a change as to the quantity. Okay? So as to transformation here, can classify three particular transformation. First is as to its growth, meaning there is an increase as to quantity or an improvement as to the quality. Next is the degeneration, meaning there is a decrease as to the quantity and a deterioration as to its quality. And the third one is what we call procreation. There is an additional living animal or additional living plants. Procreation. Okay. So when should we recognize this particular asset? So we have this three criteria in order for us to recognize biological asset. First is the entity should have control as it resulted from its past event. Okay? Next, there is future economic benefits. And lastly, the fair value or cost of the asset can be measured reliably. Okay? So, this is the three criteria that you should consider. And if all of these are present, meaning you should recognize that particular asset. Okay? So, actually, this is just the same with the recognition of an asset as a whole. Okay? So, remember, this biological asset is a part of non-current asset. Okay, now let's go to the measurement. For the measurement of biological asset, how should we measure this one? And as well as the measurement of the agricultural produced. First, let's have the biological asset. And the second one is the agricultural produced. The biological asset should be measured as to its fair value less cost of disposal. Okay? This is how you should record the biological asset. Okay, when we say cost of disposal, guys, actually, these are the necessary expenses in order for a sale to occur. Example, the commission to a broker or dealer. Next is the levy by regulatory agency. Okay? Of course, if you will not pay this one, it is impossible for your sale to occur, as well as the transfer tax and custom duties. Okay? So this is commonly what we refer as cost of disposal. Remember na ay exclusion under the IAS or Pay as 41. These expenses should not be part of our cost of disposal. Okay, the mnemonics for that is FIT. F stands for finance cost. I for income tax. And T for transportation cost. Okay, these are the exclusion from the cost of disposal. And as to its fair value, there is an hierarchy as to its fair value. If you are given a lot of fair values, you should choose according to its hierarchy. So the first one that you should consider is the quoted price of an identical asset in an active market. So if this quoted price is available, then this is the fair value that we should use. Quoted price of an identical asset in an active market. However, if this is not available, so this is the first thing that you should search for. But if that is not available, let's have a quoted price of an similar asset in an active market. Okay? So, similar asset na to ang pangitaon, its quoted price under an active market. But if this one is still not available, we also have quoted price of an identical asset and similar asset of inactive market. So this is the time that we should consider ang mga quoted price in an inactive market. Okay? Next is if dili pa dyan siya available, then it is the time that the entity will base the fair value on its information available. So, the best information available from the entity's own data. So, this is if there's no other available quoted prices under the active market and inactive market for both identical asset and similar asset. Okay, so this is the last option for the entity. Okay, please take note of this hierarchy. Next, for the agricultural produce, it is quite the same with the biological asset. But there is a note that it should be at the point of harvest only. So you should record fair value less cost to sell or cost of disposal at point of harvest. Why at point of harvest? Because beyond the point of harvest, this agricultural produce will become an inventory which have a different standard, that is IAS 2. Okay? If beyond point of harvest. So, technically, those are its rules on how should we measure biological asset and agricultural produce. Always keep in mind fair value less cost of disposal for biological asset. For agricultural produce, this is fair value less cost of disposal at point of harvest. Okay? So that is for the measurement. Okay. Now for the recognition of the gain or loss. So, of course, initially, the biological asset is measured at fair value less cost of disposal. But as we all know, there is a transformation of a biological asset, meaning there's a change in quantity and change of quality. So, yun nga, the transformation, it could be according to its growth, according to its procreation, or if there is degeneration. So that's why we have to record gain or loss. So this gain or loss will be reflected on the P&L or on our income statement. So our pro forma, if we will make a journal entry for this, we have biological asset and gain or loss. So it depends. So this is generally our journal entry if we will record gain or loss as to the change of fair value of the biological asset. Okay. We have this price change. So if the problem will ask for how much is the price change. And we also have this physical change. Our formula for that is change in price. For example, January 1, you acquire the biological asset on January 1. So what is the price for that? And then on December 31, there is a change in price or fair value. So you will just get the difference, then multiply the number of units. Okay, that's how you will calculate if the problem is asking the price change. Or if it is physical change, then change in physical fair value. So typically it involves the age. So how much is the fair value if this livestock is newborn compared to its 1 year old fair value? So there is a difference. So you will again compute the difference and multiply the number of units. For example, you have 100 calves, so you will just multiply 100, okay? Plus, if your cow give birth, so that is still part of the physical change. So you will just add the fair value of that newborn times the number of newborns, okay? Then you will get the change, physical change, okay? So that's how you will compute. The problem is asking for the price change or physical change. And any adjustment, of course, should be reflected on our journal entry. Okay, that's it. Okay, important notes under IAS 41. First, we have the bearer plans. Okay, so prior to the amendment, bearer plans is part of IAS 41. This is before, but it was amended by the IASB. Bearer plans should no longer be part of IAS 41. Instead, it should be part of IAS 16 or the PAS 16. Could be PAS 16 because accordingly, bearer plans is just like a manufacturing machine. It is used for the production of agricultural produce. Okay? So that's why nowadays it should be measured under PAS 16 or the PPE. So when should we know that it is a bearer plant? Yun nga, it is used in production of agricultural produce. Next is expected to bear produce for more than 2 or more periods. So it will bear, okay, whatever, bear fruits, or for grapevine, diba, mag-bear siya o grapes to be kuan sa wine. Okay, so it will bear for more than 2 or more periods. Okay, and it has a remote likelihood to be sold as agricultural produce. Because if it is more likely to be sold as agricultural produce, then it will be no longer part of PAS 16, but instead the standard for agricultural produce, which is the PAS 41 or the IAS 41. So therefore, dapat it is remotely or remote likelihood to be sold as agricultural produce. So, but the agricultural produce from the bearer plants is still part of the IAS 41, but the bearer plants itself or themselves is part of PAS 16. Okay? So when we try to lay out the bearer plants is part of PAS 16. Its agricultural produce is part of IAS 41. If it becomes a product, okay, for example, from feld, yun nga, yung grapevine, okay, magiging wine na siya, of course, it become inventory, which is under PAS 2. Okay? So, please take note of this, because most of the time, the problem will include bearer plant and then it will ask how much is the amount for biological asset. So therefore, it should not be included as your biological asset, but instead it should be part of the PPE. The next important point, okay, that you should remember is the bearer animal. So bearer animal is explicitly excluded from the amendment, meaning ang gi-amend lang kay si bearer plant to be part of PAS 16, si bearer animal would still be part of PAS or IAS 41. Okay, take note, pabilin gyapon siya sa PAS 41. Okay? And still considered as a bioasset. Okay. And this one, of course, I think you're familiar with this. Animal-related recreational activity. So this one is not part of biological asset again because it defies the definition of the agricultural activity wherein there should be management of an entity as to its facilitating the transformation of the biological asset. So therefore, it is not part of IAS 41, but instead, it is considered under the scope of PAS 16 or the PPE. Okay? So, please take note of this very important notes. It may have related problems having these particular givens, bearer plants, bearer animals, and animal related to recreational activities. So bearer plants is under PAS 16, same with the animal related to recreational activities, while bearer animals is still part of IAS or PAS 41. Okay, so that's it. Thank you guys for listening. Bye.